thank you for being here to hear more about the resolutions that will come before convention. I have found a prayer for us to start with. Let us pray. Almighty and everlasting God, you have given the gifts of leadership and service to those who guide the care and keeping of our diocese. Be present with those who serve, that their committed hearts may be fixed upon you. Grant them wisdom to notice the cares and concerns of this community, trust to follow your guidance when answers are not easy, and the knowledge and love of you to be ever present in their discussions and decisions. Through Christ our Lord, we offer our prayers to you. Amen.
Amen.
I think everybody knows me here. I'm Gwynn Lynch, Canon to the Ordinary. With me this evening is the chair of the Commission on Constitution and Canons, Vice-Chancellor Getz, who brings vast experience to this task. Sorry, it's true. Yeah, and since we are a relatively small group, we can just take a short second to introduce ourselves. Would you please share your congregation and whether or not you are a delegate to convention? Robert, Bob, would you like to start?
Yeah, I'm with St. John's in Chula Vista, and I am a delegate.
Excellent. Ed?
I'm senior warden at Good Shepherd Hemet, and I am a delegate.
Very good. Diane?
Diane Lopez Hughes, St. Paul's Cathedral, and I'm a delegate.
Charlotte?
I'm Charlotte Pressler, and I am not a delegate.
Well, she will be working her patootie off.
No, I'm not saying anything to you, Deb. I'm on a Zoom.
Yes, I will be working hard and enjoying convention with all of y'all as a member of diocesan staff, but not as a delegate.
So we can get right to this. We have 5 resolutions to consider. I am going to share my screen. This is from conventionedsd.org resolutions. Oh, I hid my. Didn't do that exactly right. Can everyone see that? Yes. Okay. Our first is resolution number 1. And the name of the resolution is Amendments to Bylaws Article 11. Holly, would you like to give us a brief description of this resolution?
It would be my pleasure. By the way, I'm at St. Bartholomew's. In my earlier life, I have spent 40 plus years as a corporate lawyer. So this is a very familiar piece to me. We discovered, I'm ashamed to say we didn't figure it out sooner, but we discovered that our bylaws do not provide for how to amend our bylaws. So the purpose of this resolution is to amend the bylaws by creating and adding a method for amending the bylaws. And it's a fairly standard provision, but it's certainly worthy of conversation if anyone wants to address it. So any questions?
It essentially follows the same guidelines as we follow when there's a change, when there's a canonical change with a 90-day review period required.
Right, which is the kind of thing that we pay a lot of attention to make certain that people have had plenty of advance notice, advance time to review, mark and inwardly digest whatever it is we're asking them to act upon. So amending the bylaws is a reasonably important thing, but you need to take time to review it and understand it. And so that's the sort of thing that this provision calls for.
Okay. I see, let's see here. Okay. Our next resolution then, moving on, is internal controls.
So this resolution is very housekeeping-ish. It does not, it's nothing earth-shaking. Basically, we're trying to make things a little bit easier for the leadership of the diocese to get their business done. So one of the things is that we have created an opportunity for permission to be given for the treasurer to be a signatory on bank accounts. And because you may notice there at the end of the first paragraph, it says treasurer shall not be an authorized signer. We are removing that so that the treasurer can be an authorized signer. And then the other portion of this that's relevant is that, as you can see, if you've read the explanation, we've sort of had a flip-flop. It used to be that going online to do your banking was the risky place where fraud happened. It's flipped over now, and now the place where fraud happens is with checks. So you write a check, and if somebody gets their hands on it, there are very simple technologies to wash those checks and basically rewrite them. So we are adopting a process that permits an easier methodology for dealing with our finances without jeopardizing the security of our finances.
And then the other thing that is important is this line here. We're trying to take out the requirement, trying to take out of the bylaws actual procedures, and instead move the approval of procedures to Executive Council.
Right. Which
so
is,
that as things change, we don't have to bring things to convention.
Exactly. So streamlining a little bit, but streamlining not at the risk of, not at the expense of transparency and safety and in how we do things.
Any questions or concerns here? You know, it's unusual to think about not writing checks anymore, but we have to move on. We're not using little envelopes anymore either. So
yeah. The other thing I would like to add to this, Gwynn, is that we've sort of taken it for granted how we handle these things, and this is, in my opinion, a very important piece to, again, encourage transparency, encourage people to know what the heck is going on, and give us the ability to get things done in a business-wise, timely manner. Because you remember that nothing is going to get signed if it hasn't been approved by the appropriate individuals, depending on what it is, when, and how. So we've kept those pieces in place, but made the execution of it a little bit easier.
Yeah. So, all right.
Any questions?
Any questions or concerns? This next one is more fun, and Charlotte is here to speak to it after Polly gives our brief introduction.
Okay. So this resolution clarifies and confirms that the youth ministry of the diocese is entitled to 5 delegates, and let's see, what is it? It's 5 lay delegates and 2 alternates, representing separate regions of the diocese and serving a 1-year term. So we are inviting the youth into our processes because, as is said in the explanation, youth are not the future of our church. Youth are the present time of our church. They are the church right now. So we've decided it's a really good idea to formalize this, and that is what this provision does. It limits the age to not younger than 14, not older than 18. So we clarify who fits into which bucket, and that's all I need to say about it. Charlotte, do you want to expand on that?
I would love to. Thank you, Polly, and thank you, Gwen. So this resolution was born out of our Youth Leadership Council. So youth ministry in our diocese has had an active presence in convention since 2015. We have run a concurrent track at convention every year, and part of that means engaging with convention itself. And we also talk about why we have convention and what the governance looks like in our diocese as part of all of that. And as the years progressed, students often queried why they didn't have a voice or a say in anything that was happening within our diocese, especially when many of them are actively engaged within their own congregations and in diocesan offerings that happen, serving in many, many different ways. In 2020, we first developed the Youth Leadership Council, and the Youth Leadership Council helps to run events all throughout our diocese, as well as reflect on the ways in which we engage youth ministry. And also that same year, they were the only in-person people at convention, because that was the year it was entirely online. And so when we had to make that shift to go fully online, our Youth Leadership Council were the people that sat in the chairs to listen to Bishop Susan, that presented, that helped to run things. And so that made them more energized. And that was when a lot more conversations started happening around this. And this last year in 2022, a member of the Youth Leadership Council partnered with the Judge of Elections in it. So they are in it. They want to be part of the governance of our diocese. They are active and involved and positive and excited. And this year, in addition to having a youth track at convention, many members of the Youth Leadership Council will also be full-time in convention, assisting in lots of different ways. So the way that they perceive that and hope that this will work is the same way that the council works. So this year we have 12 members of Youth Leadership Council, and the members of council currently for this current year, because it's an application process and a nomination process. So as they were selected, they come from All Souls, Christ Church, Holy Cross, St. Andrews Lake Elsinore, St. Bartholomew's, St. James, St. John's in Indio, St. Dunstan's, and St. Luke's. So a pretty broad spectrum of congregations who had young people who chose to apply for and be nominated into the Youth Leadership Council. And not every single one of those congregations has a youth group. So these are young people who are hungry not only for congregation, not only for connection with other teens in our diocese, but because they want to have these conversations and they want to participate in the life of our diocese. So I'm really excited that this is coming up in convention this year. And I hope that our diocese is going to wrap around these students and say, yes, you are not the church of the future. You are the church right now.
That is so awesome, Charlotte. I really appreciate that. On a personal note, I can tell you that there is an official youth presence at General Convention as well.
And
I got to tell you that they have seat and voice. When they come to the microphone, pay attention, listen up, because they are, as Charlotte said, they are passionate about what they care about in the church, and they are deliciously vocal about it. And it's just amazing. I love it every time we get the youth to participate in something. It's fun to listen to them. It's also fun to hear how fired up they are and what they're fired up about. So it's very cool stuff. Good job, Charlotte. Way to go.
Thank you. And Polly, I am going to bookmark the phrase deliciously engaged for future use, because that is such a good description.
Diane, do you have a question?
No, it's not a question. It's another endorsement. The groups that I'm involved in always say, who needs to be at the table? And if we don't have youth at the table, we're missing a very important creative voice. So thanks for whoever put that resolution together. Reverend Dr. Brian Johnson, super.
Now, one of the things that might come up at your congregation and someone might ask you, I asked Polly, if you're under 18, you can't sign a contract, which is a true statement, but convention doesn't sign contracts.
Right.
And so that is not a concern. And were a contract to come to convention, and I can't imagine why that would happen, then the 5 youth delegates would be asked to refrain from voting.
Yeah, they would simply be asked to abstain. And that's not, but they could still chime in.
Yes.
Does not prevent them from speaking to whatever it is that's before the convention.
Oh, so that's an exciting one. I think that's really, I'm very pleased to put this one forward.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, this next one is highly controversial.
Oh my glorioski. So sometimes folks will say, that's really up to the board of directors, but here, just to confirm, we are identifying in the bylaws that the principal location for the transaction of business for the diocese has moved from 6th Avenue in the basement to the current office on Sunset Cliffs Boulevard. So again, this one is totally housekeeping.
Yeah. So
anybody want to move it someplace else?
So
Okay.
this next one gets slightly more complicated. First of all, it was received after the 90-day deadline for timely submissions of resolutions to amend the canons, which means at the very start of convention, Polly will come before the gathered body and ask the convention if they will hear the resolution. And it needs to be 100% yes to hear the resolution. And that doesn't mean that they'll be debating the merits of it. It's just, will we even bother with it? So I entreat you to ask any of those who you have contact with to please say yes, because there's still plenty of time to review it on the website. We are long past the days of where we were putting all of the resolutions in the mail and sending them out to you. So with that said, this is the legal status of missions, and this is a little dense. And so Polly, can you walk us through the things that have been added? And
yeah, I think I can, Gwen. Probably in rereading it earlier today, the dominant theme in here is that well, let me back up one step. In this diocese, the custom has been that missions are not incorporated. Missions are simply a part of the diocese, kind of like a business unit if you were in a corporate setting. Most of the changes here give missions the ability to incorporate. So why is that important? Well, for one thing, you can't do anything all by yourself if you are not incorporated. There are not huge changes to that concept. The bishop is still in charge, basically. But by incorporating, you are isolating or insulating your congregation, your mission to what your activities are, and you're not necessarily pulling the diocese in with you. It does not change, these provisions do not change the fact that the bishop, regardless of what your structure is, the bishop is still the rector of your congregation, whether you're a corporation or a mission. So that piece has stayed in effect. And other pieces that might be relating to property and so forth, more latitude is given to congregations with respect to those matters, but always subject to the approval of the bishop and the standing committee. So it's the point basically is every congregation has the ability to choose to be an incorporated organization as opposed to an unincorporated organization when you are a mission. So as I said, in this diocese, missions have always been unincorporated and simply an adjunct of the diocese. Now we are saying you can incorporate, but only with the consent of the bishop and the standing committee. And that's really the giant gist of it. And thank you, Gwynn, for that, of 2.17. Talking about, there are some pieces that have to be attended to and paid attention to, like acceding to the Constitution and Canons of both the wider Episcopal Church and the Diocese of San Diego, and identifying whose rules, whose statement of policy trumps whose, basically. So if all else fails, you look to the diocesan canons, you look to the bishop, and you look to the standing committee. And that's how those
And
pieces come
probably
together.
executive council as well.
Well, I'm sorry, you are correct, and executive council.
Yeah.
She's so quick with that little cursor. I think that's cool. So it's a little bit lawyer-ese in this area, but it's really important, and it is especially important for mission congregations who kind of often have uncomfortable feelings about who they are and how they function.
Well, and also run into impracticalities when they are not incorporated in terms of dealing with the bank, dealing with
Right.
Contractors, etc.
Yeah. It's like, so you'll have folks saying, well, who am I? Last example, who am I contracting with? Is it this group of unincorporated, an unincorporated association? And if so, who the heck are they? Or is it the Diocese of San Diego? And in many cases, they may not want it to be the Diocese of San Diego. They want it to be the people who they're serving, who they are performing those services for. So this creates more flexibility in that regard.
So with the understanding that this is dense, does anyone have any questions on this? Well, I think this will be a short meeting and we'll all get to our dinners on time.
That's pretty cool.
Just a reminder about the schedule for convention. Oh, and some new things have come up. This is very exciting. So on Friday at 12:30, ECS will be hosting a light snacks reception for delegates, just to get to know congregations better. At 1 p.m., and we're crazy for saying yes, but it's too much fun to say no. At 1 p.m., the I think either weekly or once monthly organ concert that is held at the cathedral will take place from 1 to 1:30. And so all of our delegates and guests will be invited to share in that music. Business begins at 2 p.m. We will adjourn at 4:15, and at 4:30 we will have and yes, Diane, there will be time for a question. Give me a second. We'll have two presentations, one from Bishop Ann Ratonia, who is the newly elected Bishop for the Armed Forces, and one from former presiding bishop and former assisting bishop, Catherine Jefford Shorey, on creation care. And then there will be a celebration dinner. And then we reconvene the next morning for Convention Eucharist at 9 a.m. So, yes, Diane.
So two things. One is I just want to thank the powers that be for making space for social justice tables where we can share some of the good work we do. So that was really cool, because I heard maybe that wasn't going to happen with more chair, and it is. So that's wonderful. The other thing for me, at least, and maybe you can tell me who I should talk with, maybe.
Okay.
It's my parish where we'll be this year.
Yes.
And I'll also be a delegate. So it would be really helpful to know where I need to be a delegate so that I can volunteer to help at my parish. So would that be Allison or who, Aaron?
If you want to help volunteer, that will probably be me. So let's chat tomorrow or the next day on how you might want to assist.
Perfect. The next day is great if that works for you.
Okay.
And remember that you don't necessarily have to be sitting with the delegates from the cathedral in order to vote or participate in the convention. As long as you're on the floor and you've got your name tag and you've got your credentials, you can participate from anywhere.
Yeah, so we're hoping that delegations will be able to sit together as much as possible. We're going to be at round tables inside the cathedral.
Mhm.
So I know, because it's going to be a place for dinner, and it's
Okay.
keep me in your prayers, friends, because
It's
Yeah.
gonna be fun.
it's going to be fun. We're going to pull it off.
Yeah.
So, and I thank you for for spending a half an hour thinking about the future of your church. You make a difference to our diocese.
And I would add at the end of that, what often happens is you get through something like this and, a couple hours later you go, oh, dang, I meant to say X or I meant to ask Y. You can still contact me. You can contact Gwynn if any of those things come up later and you're wanting to know what the answer is.
Yes. Ed.
What's the dress for the dinner?
Just whatever you'd be wearing to convention. It is not like a gala, it's just a celebration dinner. And it's relatively low key in terms of dress.
Okay.
Probably not shorts.
I'm not turning anyone away, but no, you probably would not want to arrive in shorts.
Well, yeah, I get that.
So yeah, whatever you would normally wear to convention is
Well, this is my first convention, so that's why I'm asking.
Oh, this is your first?
Yes.
That's very cool.
Well, I mean, it's my first in this diocese.
Yes.
It's not my first convention, but
Well,
it's my
and
first convention
different
in this
dioceses do it
diocese.
different. Well, there might be a few people in coat and tie, but I suspect most men will be in.
Yeah, I have been a delegate to conventions in Hawaii, and that's a relevant question.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I'm asking.
Thank you. Okay.
Ed, my experience of convention here is that it is business casual light. So like not like a super dressy business casual, but not, I'm going to the beach.
Got it. Thank you.
And Ed, I did not know that you had spent time in Hawaii. I hope you do not have friends or family who were impacted by the fires on Maui, and especially Lahaina.
No, not on Maui or Lahaina, but I did spend 7 years there under Bishop Brown before he became presiding bishop.
Oh man! So back in excuse me, Gwynn. Back in those days, his nickname was Red because his hair was red, and he was in the youth delegation to General Convention when my dad was the priest in charge of the youth delegation to convention, which is a hoot. And he had a pool table in his house. Very cool. And my dad actually served as a temporary priest at Holy Innocents in Lahaina one summer, the summer that I was 16, which is a million years ago. And so it absolutely broke my heart when Holy Innocents burned down.
Strangely enough, I've been to all of the islands and know people on all of the islands except Maui.
Oh, wow. Yep. Well,
right.
Bless your heart.
Thank you, friends. And I'll see you at convention. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or call me.
You're here. Or me.
Blessings to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for participating.
Bye-bye.
Hey, bye-bye.